when it's time to start out, I would say if you have the funds and the resources to experiment, definitely look to get a varied portfolio, whether that is in studio, whether that is editorial based. Think about the work that you aspire to work for and alongside, because in the industry, in the current climate of the industry, what you present is how they're going to take you. It's very literal. I feel like it's evolved over the years to be very systematic, where how you present person A or person B is exactly how we're going to get it. So that means we have to put in a lot more work within ourselves and our building of portfolio to go, I need those fitness shots. Okay, I need those editorial shots for those campaigns I want. What sort of looks will I be dancing with? What sort of artist would style like A, style like B, style like C? When they see a photo, especially when new creative and producers are exposed to you via agency representation, they're gonna take you verbatim. So it's about you producing the different versions of yourself very clearly and concisely.
Welcome to Studio Sessions, a video series for creative performers. Each week we go behind the scenes on the shoots and sit down with guests to discuss their careers, the creative industry, and share the lessons they've learned along the way.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
How has your day been today?
Good, really good. Glad to see you, glad to finally get to work with you. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, I feel like your outfit today was sick. Like, someone clearly knows how to style themselves.
Thank you.
It was a very, very fun morning. So for anyone who doesn't know who you are, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I would love to. My name is Barrett Davis, 28 years of age. I'm a professional dancer and creative from East London, who's been working in our professional industry for 7 years now. So that's the basis of who I am.
Yeah. What does dance look like for you when it comes to like starting?
I started dance when I was 7 years of age, which was totally a hobby. My mum put me in like a Saturday school at one point in my life. I actually didn't enjoy it to start off with. 7 years old, overstimulated in many ways. I knew I wanted to get my energy out, but I didn't know how to do that. I gave it a steady 6 months, I feel, that then ended up manifesting like this enjoyment of moving and like being able to express. I remember it kind of gradually just went on a rise, and I just loved it then since, and just trained in so many styles. Started out in ballet and jazz. We had such a variety at the time as well. So I ended up just having fun. I knew I was a lover of music. I didn't know how I was going to interpret that love at that age, and how I know that is looking back at memories that my mum have on the VHR.
Nice.
And I was like, I just was always moving or expressing myself through music, and then I ended up finding dance being my main outlet, and ever since I've not looked back. Basically that's been my escapism, but then I haven't really escaped anywhere because it's literally been my whole entire life. So I have been very, very grateful to have that from a young age, and being able to find the connection that it had to me in so many different ways along my childhood was an amazing memory that is so fermented, really.
Do you remember the moment that you started to enjoy it? Did something happen where you were like, actually, no, I kind of feel like this is me?
I feel like it was, again, probably about 3-4 months in, I reckon I heard one of my favorite songs that I was probably dancing to or singing at home. And I was like, I love this song. And now I love that I can move to it and find a way that I can heighten my enjoyment of music. My dad was always a huge lover, and still is probably my main source of like music taste, and always played a lot of music around the house. So that's when I started to tune into that. Adding that with the socializing aspect as well, having a lot of my school friends that joined along the way, made it like, okay, this is maybe the place where everyone should be. And so then I found a love for it there and was like, you know what, I really do love it. I want to do it more and more and more. Which it's always funny when you want to have it more, it's not accessible because it was the one day. I didn't enjoy the one day. Now I want to do it all week long. So then as I headed into like year 4, 5, 6, there were lots of dance clubs at my local community centre and my school. And I was like, Mum, please, any way that I can I please like extend my training? And that's how I kind of got into like a discipline route in finding different styles and enjoying different sorts of teachers from young, and just really wanting to be any and everywhere.
What was the first look you brought today, and what made you bring that along?
My first look was in the palettes of the green tonals. Normally what I style myself in is what I will dress in, and I've been encouraging myself to display that within photography a lot when I do shoot. Because beforehand, I used to try and create imagery within myself or within how I wanted to look. And I guess growing through my career, I understood, and I still continue to remind myself that how I represent myself in these photos is how they're gonna see me when I walk in the door and when I'm in every rehearsal and when I am on stage. So to be connected to that authentic form is really important, other than maybe what has worked for other people, especially when I started out. I never had the subjective advice needing for my brain to find its own way, to find my own form, my own brand. I found it, and I'm very grateful for finding it now. The journey is obviously a story to tell, and there's so many parts of it that is enlightening. But the first look resembled kind of the moods that I was in when I was planning to come to see you. And so I just wanted to keep it really simple and be able to let that, my actual aura, shine through the looks.
100%. So looking to someone who's thinking about starting a portfolio now, or someone who wasn't sure in what direction to take their portfolio, what would your advice be to there?
First and foremost would be to do your extensive research on what products are produced from certain creatives. Really look beyond the person you may see, if it's a mutual friend or someone that you know, to be visible within the social media network. Really think about whether that style of photography is gonna best portray the version of you now. I have experienced working with photographers that my confidence level weren't suited to at the time. Coming back to work with them, I've produced better work because now I'm at a stage where I understand my creative voice and where it can be applied. I've chiseled away at it. I know when it's time to start out, I would say, if you have the funds and the resources to experiment, definitely look to get a varied portfolio, whether that is in studio, whether that is editorial based. Think about the work that you aspire to work for and alongside, because in the industry, in the current climate of the industry, what you present is how they're going to take you. It's very literal. I feel like it's evolved over the years to be very systematic, where how you present person A or person B is exactly how we're going to get it. And so that means we have to put in a lot more work within ourselves and our building of portfolio to go, I need those fitness shots. Okay, I need those editorial shots for those campaigns I want. What sort of looks will I be dancing with? What sort of artist would style like A, style like B, style like C? When they see a photo, especially when new creative and producers are exposed to you via agency representation, they're gonna take you verbatim. So it's about you producing the different versions of yourself very clearly and concisely.
And like coming back to you as a kind of a young performer, what, how does it kind of develop in you terms of like you going to college and that kind of evolution within your career?
Right. So the company that I used to train with when I was younger, between the ages of 7 and 14, I remember vividly. Once I fell in love with the art form, I ended up then training quite hard with two of my educators who run the company, called Michelle and Deborah. They were also professionals in the industry at the time. So I was probably in the first 2 years more obsessed with the art form, more like dance is so cool. I love the way it makes me feel. And then having visual representation within the media of them, see them do a shoot, it's on TV, then I get to see them on Saturdays. I'm like, I was so thrilled at the time to see that there is a connection towards like the gift and talents that I've, one, been blessed with to be able to seek, two, then being able to work hard to develop and hone in on, to then find ways that I could perform. I just love to be on stages, and they had the most perfect resources to have us always on a stage. So much so, those 7 years included a lot of street dance championships, a lot of conventions where I was able to basically be in a rehearsal environment as a kid and understand the discipline and the hard work that it takes to be able to execute that piece. It wasn't life or death, but at the time I treated it really seriously, which is which embeds a lot of the skill and qualities that feed into my personal brand, my personal being to this day. So when I got to 14, I ended up then varying out, because you can only go so far with, in order for you to grow, you have to evolve in new spaces. Yeah. So there were certain companies like Avant-Garde Youth and Trilogy Youth at the time, which were very London-based groups. This transition was between the competition world and there being the creation of the commercial industry.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, there wasn't such a thing that was so highly demanded by a lot of my generation at the time. There weren't easy access to be able to audition and be casted for a music video, a movie. It was very much a closed network. Mm-hmm. So I then ended up shifting out of regular practice because I didn't know where dance was going to take me at the time. It was very much the cliche, we need to make sure you have your education. Mm-hmm. Now, luckily, I was also very obsessed with my education to the point where I ended up starting to craft my career in medicine. So at 14, I then started doing my GCSEs and A-level, working towards becoming a neurosurgeon. I had the idea of becoming a Spanish-speaking neurosurgeon at the age of 14.
Love that.
Crazy how I was studying languages and also I loved my sciences. I ended up then wanting to combine it. The Pisces within me was like, let's make the job title right now so you see where it works, where it could work for you. And so I ended up not dancing at all. I ended up studying, going to A-levels, starting med school. For that then the most important part of the story is I ended up then finding that the characterization and personality of me was draining. So speaking about the reality of a different industry completely, you never really take a break when you're striving for a career in medicine or biomedical sciences in general. So you're generally going until you're gone. And unfortunately, it was pretty early on within my process within the sciences that I realized I don't feel like myself within this process. So long story cut short, I ended up then going back to training. I had one of my best friends at the time who recommended a company initiative, ended up training. And that's when I found out that there were actually vocational institutions for me to train and hone in on my professional craft. And I was amazed because at 14, between 14 and 18, the Erdangs, the Burrs, the Addicts, the Wilks, one, weren't created, some weren't created. Two, they weren't advertised for you to willingly apply for and be able to strive for that as a professional goal. So I was amazed and I knuckled down and even had a few hardships, to be fair. I didn't get in the first round. I was rejected by Erdang. I didn't get into Bird first time. I thought my world had come to an end, especially because I was taking such a huge sacrifice to switch careers. And I had the obsession with kind of being in control of where I best saw myself fitting in, and also where I was my most happiest. Where was I my most stimulated? Whether that was within academia or whether that was in my vocation. I just wanted to be able to be as inquisitive as I knew I was most comfortable with. And so, I kind of started to chase the professional goal from about 18, 19, to be fair.
So kind of like two things I want to touch on there. Firstly, when it came to medicine, was the decision to go down that route financial driven? I'm just thinking that because when I was young, like I was always kind of really good at art. So I was always kind of like top in the year at art and stuff. And I never thought that I could have a creative career because I never saw that around me. Whereas I was like, I did sciences too. And I was like, if I do architecture, I can go for the kind of like the maths physics route that I'm good at in that side of things, but bring an element of art in because there's a way for me to be able to do something slightly creative and earn like a good living from it. And I think being younger, a high salary was the most important thing that I thought life was about. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of only later, after kind of moving to London and kind of going to university, that I realized that actually I can make a career in the creative industry.
How did I navigate that? I personally feel that as I got older, every year I shed a reality on the decision of my younger self. And I personally feel that it's given 60-40. And I think 40 was more based on the assertion of the role, the comfortability, the pride that I would give my family, the reputation that my contribution to the world would be received. I always wanted to make impact with whatever I was doing. And so I had my driving mechanism to basically be encouraged to do that the most. 60%, which sounds crazy, but I loved the challenge of being within that industry. I just felt like the core skill now I realized was that I wanted to make an impact first and foremost, period. And I just found a new way of doing that. And I look every other day and go, I'm literally the same person, just transported into a different space, given the same energy and also utilizing the same skills and qualities I've always wanted to embody. It just didn't occur to me that there was a space that was so subjective and I guess supportive, comforting, therapeutic, where I could be a role model for myself, for my family, and for the friends that were giving me the energy and support, which then could possibly transpire to being impactful towards my whole community and beyond. So I was just rolling with that in my late teens, early 20s to see what version of myself that I could create that was, one, most authentic, but two, didn't become stagnant. I always wanted to see myself in different lights. I guess through music, through styling, through dance, you can see yourself very differently in a different style, very differently in a different color palette of fit, very differently photographed by a different photographer. And that's why I enjoy experimenting and offering myself in different creative spaces, because then that can really help you find you.
Yeah. So moving on to the second look from today, what was that and what made you bring that along? That
was one of my most casual fits that I've probably ever styled myself in. I would definitely wear it out, as you saw probably as I tried it on. I had a denim jort on, which had an Ed Hardy print at the back, which was really nice and is a new personal find, which I won't be returning. And I had a white long sleeve tee, which was underneath a very, I guess like a crimson red jumper, crew neck. And then I had these black and red loafers that kind of matched and tied the whole fit in. So it was given very like street style-esque, a lot of my personal taste in styling, which again, going back, I always wanted to capture a different version of myself. So today's challenge was, how can I bring who I know myself to be today to the shoot?
Love that.
How can I offer today's version of Shay to Adam, photographically, stylistically? And bam, I gave you that.
So kind of coming back to being rejected, you talked about kind of going to different schools and not getting the result you wanted. How did that feel in the moment of being, okay, well, I've moved away from the idea of medicine into dance, but they're not accepting me?
I had a very balanced perspective. I was very distraught. I remember the date, the time, the month, the year that I got rejected, and my current state of mind. It was like I had this personal pressure that I wanted the transition to be so seamless. I wanted to be able to leave that academic year on time in the summer to make sure I started vocational school in September. But obviously admissions in all institutions across the board normally offer their places out in the March time. So I got the rejection in March and didn't know how to navigate. I didn't want to go back because I knew I had my heart set, and the encouragement actually that gave that. But then the reality within my family foundation was also, you are switching back to your passion. So you've got to find that and also then build on the principles of how this industry actually functions. There needs to be, I don't think it's spoken about enough. There is a difference between what a community can offer and what the industry can offer. How a community can make you feel, or what that offers for you, and what the industry requires and offers. And that was the point where I started to delve into extensive research to how I was going to navigate the industry. It was never going to be bound to the institution that I was trying to get my skills and qualities up. I feel like as emotions just pass through you, you know, it's a series of motions and moments in your life that you feel and you let pass through you to encourage you to become with more strength. I let the misery and the discomfort in navigating a space that I neglected to then try to like re-immerse myself in. I just let that be for a little while. I had a lot of friends that had places of recommendations for me to train. So I ended up just starting out, and it's always the start that's the hardest, to be able to put yourself in new spaces. Even to this day, no child, adult or senior could tell you that stepping into a new space isn't daunting. It's like a human reaction, you know? It's a mechanism that is biological. It just is going to happen psychologically. So I ended up then just finding the confidence and the risk-taking factor of stepping into. I knew where I saw myself in 3 years, and that ended up transpiring into less time. I got what I wanted in less time because I just stayed focused and willing to be able to navigate the best I could.
Yeah. You made a really good, interesting point there about the community in the industry and them being a separate thing. And I think that's a really important thing that I don't think everyone thinks about, is they kind of just tie it all together. Whereas I think the people kind of from my perspective who seem to be the happiest, doing the best, are the people who immerse themselves in the community side of the dance world. It's like they're not just at home kind of waiting for a job to come in. They're within a community. They're around those people.
It's super imperative. Like within my own initiatives and my own spaces that I facilitate, I always encourage for there to be a differentiation between the two. And it helps me build the strategy alongside the reality of this industry. Being in a room training with aspiring professionals is just as rewarding and encouraging as me being on tour with an artist. And I can't explain it, but I definitely can explain it if I had all the time in the world, to know that as an artist, I mentioned about feelings passing through us. Also, strengths and weaknesses pass through us, you know? What we tend to gravitate towards may be at a pinnacle at one point and maybe not. Styles that we enjoy might be at most heightened in certain places, etc. You've got to let yourself be available and accessible to those things. Secondly, community is supposed to be a place of comfort for you to be able to feel safe, to fail, to grow, to experiment, to mix the aspects of the artistry that your body holds rather than the business logistics that is almost, it's clouding a lot of the new generation's perspective of the industry that they're about to immerse themselves in, because they feel like they need to have everything figured out so early on, you know? Social media isn't the most honest platform. It's almost for us to recategorize and redefine how we use social media to show our true, authentic self, but also the realities. I've definitely encouraged myself over the last 3 years, especially. I made a pact with myself that if there are certain hardships that I face within the industry, I'm going to make sure that I'm vocal about it on social media, because one, it's the reality. Two, it's therapeutic.
Yeah.
I get it out there and I'm like, that's how I feel. I know there's someone else amongst 9 billion human beings on this earth that feel the same way that I do, whether it's in dance, music, or a total different industry. And the more that we create that liaison and community, the more that you can feel like you can have those conversations and have that support system for you, whether that is your best friend or my acquaintances. I have hundreds and thousands of acquaintances within our industry where I have vivid memories of having conversations about our journeys. We have then escalated into new eras where the beautiful thing is, where our relationships lie, is that you can be inspired by that. you know, and also you can correct certain things by other people's journeys that could catapult and fast track you to certain places, you know, and for you to be so willing to be able to give that energy to others is really important, because with an industry that is so overly saturated and competitive, if we don't let the energy flow in the most comforting and communal way, it becomes very hostile and very unenjoyable, which then just creates a lot of his hostility around something that's supposed to give us so much joy.
100%.
And that's where offering more community within the industry will be able to straighten out everyone's judgment of where they're actually heading within their career and make those decisions with a lot more confidence, not following others and thinking that is the way because they look like you or you like the same style. You know, life is super subjective to the point where you almost have to be in limbo to win the bingo. You know?
I love that. So in terms of like your teaching and your kind of programs that you do, how has that developed over time and what's your focus with that?
So I had a super strict and passionate rule within my journey that I wouldn't teach or facilitate until I knew that I had a substantial amount of knowledge. And as we had a little conversation about while shooting, is that I take the role of the teacher super seriously as a student, as someone who works quite heavily within the industry, within the UK. I am still a student of my craft and I still immerse myself in those student spaces. So I understand and done my implicit research on what it takes to be a great teacher, or what I should be striving towards embedding within my mechanism to be someone that could facilitate spaces, and also be encouraging to others in the right way. There is a right way for you to be able to educate. I've always kind of dabbled in more personal spaces with friends before I did catapult my teaching career, and it came about in 2021 after we came out of COVID. I made a pact for myself that I was going to be a lot more daring with sharing, and I still have to speak to my inner self to encourage myself that, because it is a very hard thing to be able to create very often, to facilitate space very often, be very open and be willing to share your energy amongst a classroom full of tens, maybe 100 in a space. So it came about in 2021, and I did also keep it very exclusive so I could actually take away from a single opportunity and reflect on how I can become. Even ask friends like, how did that go for you? Did you enjoy? Is there things that I could work on? And thank Lord for that support system, because they gave me the reality that I needed. Sometimes where I thought I was on the right track, I needed to fix certain things. Also an enjoyable experience. So I have been able to now lead into have full confidence in creating an authentic space that I have been working on in 2024 called the CBD strategy.
And tell us more about that.
Wow.
What is the CBD strategy?
The CBD strategy is bound to be a unique creative network that I want to create for myself. It has been categorized in my mind, alongside the team I work with, to be down to three things. We have community, we have creative, and we have mentorship. And I feel like the CBD strategy is supposed to encompass all of the skills and qualities that I embed in my professional brand that has proven to be successful for me. However, the challenges that I put myself under is to find ways that I can demonstrate those skills and qualities within our industry. So it isn't just based on professional dance training, it's insight to the business logistics, portfolio recommendations, the mindset, how to navigate the reality of your industry. And so my first edition, which I launched in late September, was a trial run on how I could offer that in a space where I can create a multidisciplinary network of creatives that I can work alongside or create under. My bigger ambition is to be a creative director of huge amounts. So this is like I guess, a love letter towards my future self, to be able to always keep myself on a straight and narrow, to be able to supply that knowledge that I have categorized for myself for others. And that started out with a lot of my peers, which I'm very grateful for their support, being in communication about advice over many years. The beautiful thing about advice within our industry is that it is momentary and it serves in that moment.
Yeah.
So looking back at all those moments that I've been able to offer advice along my journey, I spoke to myself and I said, why can't I start that now? I am only going to be as great as I can be today. And so that's all I can offer.
Love that. So moving on to the final look for today, what was that? What made you bring that?
The kilt. So I had a grey kilt, which was on top of like these skin tight grey trousers, black boots, which I'm wearing now, and a white top with a little bit of a graphic tee on it. I wanted to strip that down. I wanted to try something different. I've never photographed in a kilt before, and I've always wanted to. Again, that has been a journey within itself to gain confidence to be able to try something new, which goes back to our earlier point of like being daring enough to try new styling options. And it's just a part of my journey where I was daring enough to do it. It's taken me so many years to try it. So that is testament to the words that I shared earlier. Yeah, very simple, very sleek. And we ended up then experimenting in new ways on both creative forms that were really nice to like just embody.
Yeah, I feel like I love when someone brings that. You can tell it's created for them and they've kind of brought something new to it. And it's kind of, let's experiment with this. Because then I was just like, cool, let me try lighting stuff I've never done before, and just kind of like had this kind of concept in my brain of how it could work. And I think like back to what we were talking about before with like testing, it was just well, let's just set this up, see how it works. First couple, I was just like, oh, it's not quite right. Tweaked it a little bit, and I was just like, mad. I was like, this feels like a post-processed photo in camera, and I was just like, this is wild. Like this is like sick. What does the future hold for you?
Well, I have a couple of goals that I'm working towards currently. I have a very busy end of my 2024, which is very exciting. I just am trying to tackle my professional work in a different mindset. I see myself being bigger, being better, being bolder. So I want to just commit to harnessing my creative process a lot more, being able to promote and harness on the CBD strategy and take that around the UK as much as I can in the following months and into 2025. And I am in the process of starting my new venture in Los Angeles, California, which would probably start in March 2025. So just finishing my O1 visa and starting to transition to work with new and exciting opportunities in the States, which has always been a dream since I knew that I could make it in this industry. So I'm just super, super, super blessed and grateful to be able to still be connected to my art form in a truly like fiery manner, and also just find new ways to create. I just have so much to give to my community, so much to give to this industry, and I'm so willing to find out an infinite amount of ways that I can do so.
Boom, absolutely love that. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you so much
very
for
fun.
having me.
Boom!
Woo!
Yes! Smashed
Thank you
it.
so much.
Thank you. That was very
What did I
good.
do again? 1, I spilt this. 2, did I drink it? Did I drink it? I'm so engrossed. I'm going to drink it now because it's actually quite warm still.
It's like more has evaporated into the air than you drank.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like this episode, please share it. If you want to see more of these, click subscribe. And if you've got any questions or anything you want to ask, just drop them in the comments below. See you in the next session.